I never thought I would be the kind of guy to write something like this. But here I am, trying to make sense of how my entire life turned into a complete joke without me even realizing it. I've been married to my wife, Emma, for 8 years. We met when I was 28 and she was 25. It was one of those whirlwind romances that people always say never last, but at the time, I thought we had something special. We moved fast, moved in together after 6 months, engaged by a year, married a year after that. Everything felt right. Or at least, I thought it did. That I work in corporate finance, which means long hours, business trips, and, unfortunately, a lot of stress. But I always justified it by telling myself that I was working hard for us. For our future. Emma, on the other hand, has a much more flexible career. She's a freelance designer, mostly working from home, and always claimed to love the freedom it gave her. I thought it was a perfect balance, me providing stability, her bringing creativity into our lives. We had a nice house, no financial worries, and I genuinely believed we were happy. Looking back now, I realize the signs were there. Small things that I brushed off because I trusted her completely. She was always a little secretive with her phone, but she claimed she just didn't like people looking through her messages. Fair enough. She started working out more, buying new clothes, changing her appearance, but she told me she was just trying to feel more confident. Again, fair enough. But then there were the late-night phone calls she always took in another room. The unexplained meetings with clients that seemed to be happening more frequently. The sudden drop in affection, the way she pulled away when I tried to be close to her. That I ignored it all. I told myself it was just a phase, that things would get better when my workload lightened up. I even blamed myself at times, thinking maybe I wasn't giving her enough attention. It never crossed my mind that she could be cheating. Not once. Not until I had undeniable proof staring me in the face. That it all started with a single business trip. I was scheduled to be away for 5 days, something that wasn't unusual for me. Before I left, Emma seemed different. More distant. Almost impatient for me to go. I chalked it up to stress, gave her a kiss goodbye, and left, thinking everything was fine, but something gnawed at me. A feeling I couldn't shake. I don't know what it was, maybe the way she barely looked at me when I left, or how she seemed almost relieved when I walked out the door. Whatever it was, it stuck with me. And for the first time, I started questioning things. That's when I made a decision. A decision that would change everything. Before I left, I had installed a hidden camera in the living room. It was something I had originally bought for security purposes, but this time, I placed it somewhere more discreet. I didn't expect to find anything. Honestly, I thought I was just being paranoid. But a part of me needed to know. Needed to be sure. 5 days later, I came home, expecting the same routine. Emma greeting me with a smile, acting as if everything was normal. But instead, I walked into our house and immediately felt like I was intruding in my own home. She looked startled when she saw me, like she hadn't expected me back so soon, even though she knew exactly when I was coming home. That was the first red flag. The second was the faint smell of cologne that wasn't mine lingering in the air. That I didn't say anything. Not yet. Instead, I waited until she went to bed, then I checked the footage. And that's when my entire world collapsed. That I sat there, alone in the living room, staring at the screen, unable to breathe. My hands were clammy, my heart was pounding, and my entire body felt numb as I scrolled through the footage. I had installed the camera almost as an afterthought, never actually expecting to see anything. But what I was looking at now was worse than anything I could have imagined. It started the night I left for my business trip. The moment my car pulled out of the driveway, Emma was already on her phone. She was smiling, texting, pacing around the house like a teenager waiting for her crush to pick her up. Within 30 minutes, a car pulled into our driveway. A man stepped out, tall, well-dressed, way too comfortable, walking up to my front door like he had done it 100 times before. And then, there she was, opening the door with that same smile she used to give me when I came home. That same look of excitement, of affection, of desire. They didn't waste time. He stepped inside, and she kissed him like she had been starving for him. Like I had never even existed. My stomach twisted, and for a second, I thought I might throw up right there on the floor. I forced myself to keep watching. He made himself at home immediately, tossing his jacket over the chair, stretching out on my couch, drinking the expensive whiskey I had bought for myself. Emma curled up next to him, laughing, whispering things I couldn't hear. They looked like a couple. Not two people sneaking around, not a guilty secret, but a couple. And that's what made it worse. She wasn't hesitating, she wasn't second-guessing, she wasn't looking over her shoulder like someone who knew she was doing something wrong. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment, this was routine. I scrolled through the next few days of footage, and every single night I was gone, he was there. They cooked together, they drank wine, they sat on my couch watching movies, wrapped up in each other like they had all the time in the world. He wasn't just some fling. He was comfortable. He knew exactly where the glasses were in the kitchen, where the remote was, even which light switch turned on the dimmers. That meant he had been here before. Many times that I felt like I was watching my entire life get rewritten in front of me. Every moment I had spent loving this woman, trusting her, building a future with her. It was all a lie. She had been living a double life, sharing the home I worked hard to provide with another man while I was out there, grinding for us. And the worst part? She hadn't even tried to hide it. Not really. She just assumed I would never question her. That I would keep going through life oblivious while she had her fun, but she had underestimated me. That I could have confronted her right then and there. I could have walked into the bedroom, thrown my phone in her face, and demanded an explanation. I could have screamed, broken things, lost control. But what would that accomplish? She would cry, she would beg, she would manipulate. And then what? A messy fight, a dramatic breakup, and she would walk away, taking half of everything, maybe even spinning the story in her favor. No. That wasn't enough. She had spent months, maybe years, deceiving me, playing me for a fool, taking advantage of the life I had given her. I wasn't going to let her walk away from this untouched. If she wanted to destroy everything we built together, then I would make sure she lost everything too. So I started planning. Step 1. Secure my finances. I knew how divorce worked. If I played this wrong, she would walk away with half of everything. The house, my savings, even the things I had worked for before we were married. I wasn't going to let that happen. First, I quietly started moving assets out of our joint accounts, transferring money into personal accounts she had no access to. I made sure my name was the only one on my most valuable investments, started shifting ownership of certain properties to family members. It had to be slow, careful, untraceable. I needed her to believe nothing had changed, that I was still the same oblivious husband she had been fooling all this time. Step 2. Set her up. I needed undeniable proof. Not just for me, but for our friends, our families, anyone who would try to sympathize with her when the truth finally came out. I started collecting everything. The hidden camera footage, text messages from our shared phone account, bank statements showing suspicious charges when she claimed to be working late. I even went as far as installing a keylogger on our home computer to track her messages. And what I found? It was worse than I had expected. She wasn't just seeing him when I was away. She was meeting him during the day when I was at work, sneaking off to hotels, spending money I earned to keep their little affair alive. She had planned vacations with him, used my credit card to buy him gifts, even told him she loved him. She had built a whole life with this man while keeping me around as her safety net. I was beyond anger at this point. I was cold. Calculated. Ready to execute the plan. Step 3. The grand reveal. A confrontation wasn't enough. I wanted her to feel the same humiliation I felt, the same sense of betrayal, the same gut-wrenching realization that her entire life was falling apart. So I planned something bigger. A family gathering. A party filled with our closest friends, her relatives, people whose respect she cared about. And in the middle of it all, I would give her the surprise of her life. She had no idea what was coming, and that made it all the more satisfying that I was living in the same house as her, sleeping in the same bed, eating the same meals, all while knowing the truth. Every time she smiled at me, every time she kissed me goodbye, every time she told me she loved me, I had to fight the urge to laugh. She thought she still had me fooled. She had no idea that I had already seen everything, that I had already started the process of tearing her life apart piece by piece. But the hardest part of all? Pretending. Acting like nothing had changed. Keeping my expressions neutral, my responses natural, my routine exactly the same. If I was going to pull this off, she couldn't suspect a thing. The next few weeks were spent setting everything in motion. First, the financials. I needed to make sure that when I walked away from this, I would walk away clean, without her taking a single cent from me. I slowly moved funds from our joint account into a separate account she had no access to. I made sure my name was the only one on our most valuable assets. I started transferring property titles to family members, ensuring that when the time came, there would be nothing left in her name. I made appointments with my lawyer in secret, crafting the perfect divorce strategy. In many states, if you can prove infidelity, it impacts the settlement. And I had proof. More than enough of it. The footage from the hidden camera alone was damning, but I had more. Text messages, phone records, even a paper trail of her using my money to finance their dates. Every single piece of evidence was carefully documented, organized, prepared for when the time came, but that wasn't enough for me. I didn't just want to leave her. I wanted her to feel it. I wanted her to experience the same kind of betrayal, the same public humiliation that she had put me through. That's when I came up with the idea of the party. Emma had a birthday coming up, and every year, we hosted a big family gathering. Her parents, her siblings, friends, colleagues, everyone she cared about would be there. It was the perfect setting. A night where she would expect to be celebrated, surrounded by people who adored her, completely unsuspecting of the storm that was about to hit. That I started working on the presentation. A simple slideshow, something that looked like a sweet, sentimental tribute to our years together. I collected old pictures of us, vacations, anniversaries, memories we had built over the years. And then, near the end, I inserted the footage. The hidden camera clips of her with him, the texts, the receipts, every single shred of proof that showed exactly what she had been doing behind my back. I wanted to time it perfectly, to let the room be filled with laughter and warmth before I shattered it all in an instant. But while I was planning, I was also watching. Emma continued with her usual routine, completely unaware of what was coming. She would tell me she was working late when I knew exactly where she was. She would sneak off to the bathroom to text him, smiling down at her phone while I pretended not to notice. She would make excuses to leave the house, claiming she had errands to run, but I had already tracked her location enough times to know better. It was almost fascinating to watch. The way she lied so effortlessly, so naturally. She had perfected it, made it a part of her personality. I wondered how long it had been this way. Had I ever really known her at all? Or had I just been a placeholder, a convenience, someone who provided her with security while she chased excitement elsewhere? There was one moment that nearly made me break. I came home from work one evening to find her in the kitchen, humming to herself as she cooked dinner. She turned to me with that same easy smile, kissed me on the cheek, and said, "I missed you today." The sheer audacity of it nearly made me laugh out loud. She had spent the afternoon in a hotel with him, and now she was standing here, in our home, pretending like I was the one she had been thinking about. I wanted to confront her right then and there. To grab my phone, show her the footage, and watch her scramble for an excuse. But I held back because the longer I waited, the better it would be, and the party was just days away. The days leading up to the party were the hardest. Every second I spent around Emma felt like I was suffocating, like I was trapped in a prison of my own making. I had to keep up the act, smile at the right moments, nod when she spoke, laugh when she cracked a joke. Every morning, I kissed her goodbye like nothing had changed, even though I knew the truth. Every night, I lay beside her in bed, pretending to be asleep while she scrolled through her phone, probably messaging him. It took everything in me to keep my hands steady, to control my breathing, to stop myself from letting the anger take over. She was still so confident. So sure that she was untouchable, that I was still the same oblivious husband who would never question her. She continued to lie without hesitation, continued to sneak off with him as if nothing was out of the ordinary. And every time she did, I documented it. Every location she visited, every charge on our credit card, every call she made while she thought I wasn't paying attention. I had built an entire case against her, a mountain of evidence so overwhelming that no lie she could come up with would be enough to explain it away, and yet, she still had no idea. The morning of the party, she was in a particularly good mood. She had spent the entire week planning, organizing decorations, sending out last-minute invitations. She was excited, looking forward to celebrating with her friends and family, completely oblivious to what was waiting for her. I watched her as she got ready, curling her hair, picking out the perfect dress, humming a song under her breath. It almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost, she turned to me with that same fake smile and said, "I'm so glad we're doing this. I know work has been stressful for both of us, but I feel like tonight, we can just relax and have fun." I nodded, forcing a smile. Yeah. It'll be a night to remember. She had no idea how right she was. The guests started arriving in the early evening. Her parents, her siblings, old friends from college, colleagues from work. People who had known us for years, people who had celebrated our love, people who had no idea that they were about to witness the truth. Emma was glowing, playing the perfect hostess, moving from group to group with effortless charm. She laughed, clinked glasses, posed for pictures, completely unaware that every moment of joy she was experiencing was about to be destroyed. That I waited until the party was in full swing. The house was filled with laughter, music, conversation. People were relaxed, comfortable, happy. That's when I made my move. That I tapped my glass, the sound cutting through the chatter, drawing everyone's attention. Emma turned to me, smiling, expecting a toast, expecting me to say something sweet about her. I could see the anticipation in her eyes, the love she thought I still had for her. It almost made me sick. "First of all, I just want to thank everyone for coming tonight," I started, keeping my voice steady. "Emma and I are really grateful to have such amazing friends and family in our lives." A round of applause. Emma beamed, reaching for my hand. I let her take it, just for a second, just long enough for her to think she was still safe. "And since tonight is all about celebrating Emma, I wanted to do something special," I continued. I put together a little slideshow, just some memories of the past few years, moments that really define our journey together. Emma's eyes lit up. She squeezed my hand. "You did that for me?" I smiled. "Of course." The lights dimmed. The projector flickered to life. And for the first few minutes, it was exactly what she expected. Pictures of our wedding day, our honeymoon, vacations we had taken together. Her laughter filled the room, soft and genuine. She leaned into me, sighing happily, and then, everything changed. The first image appeared on the screen. A still from the hidden camera footage. Emma, standing in our living room, arms wrapped around another man. The room went silent. Confused murmurs filled the space, people shifting uncomfortably. Emma's smile faltered. Another image. A screenshot of her text messages. "Can't wait for you tonight. He's leaving soon." A video clip played next. Emma and her lover on our couch, kissing, laughing, completely lost in each other. She gasped, her entire body stiffening. "What is this?" I turned to look at her, my expression unreadable. "This," I said calmly, "is the truth." Someone let out a shocked whisper. Her mother covered her mouth, eyes wide. Her father's face turned red with anger. Friends exchanged looks, some in disbelief, some in disgust. Emma shot to her feet, her hands shaking. It's not what it looks like." "Oh, I think it's exactly what it looks like," I interrupted. The slideshow continued. More texts, more footage, more undeniable proof of her betrayal. She turned to me, desperation in her eyes. "Please, let's talk about this privately." "Why?" I cut her off. "You weren't exactly keeping it private, were you?" Her lover's name popped up on the screen, along with the charges she had made to our joint account. Dinners, hotel rooms, gifts. She had used my money to fund their relationship. She turned to the crowd, searching for support, but no one was on her side. Her mother looked horrified. Her father shook his head in disappointment. Friends avoided her gaze. She was alone. Exposed that I pulled out an envelope and tossed it onto the table in front of her. "Divorce papers," I said. "Already signed. Everything is taken care of. The house isn't yours. The accounts are empty. You have nothing." Her mouth opened, then closed. She was speechless, and then, to make things even worse for her, the final piece of my plan unfolded. That I turned to one of her colleagues from work, someone she had invited personally. "Oh, by the way," I said casually, "I sent everything to your boss. The texts, the receipts, everything. I thought they should know where company money was really going." Emma let out a strangled noise, eyes wide with panic. No, you didn't," I nodded. "I did." And just like that, it was over. Emma didn't say another word. She grabbed her purse, stumbled toward the door, and ran. Out of the house, out of my life. I stood there for a moment, taking it all in. The whispers, the stunned expressions, the weight of what had just happened. Then I picked up my glass, raised it slightly, and said, "Well. Happy birthday, Emma." And then I took a drink. She lost everything that night. Her reputation. Her job. Her lover, who vanished the moment he realized she had nothing left to offer him. And as for me? I walked away clean, free, and without a single ounce of regret, because in the end, she had done this to herself. The silence after she ran out was heavier than I expected. The room was still filled with people, but no one knew what to say. I could feel their eyes on me, some filled with pity, some with shock, some just trying to process everything they had just seen. Emma's mother looked like she wanted to disappear, her face pale, her hands gripping the table so tightly her knuckles turned white. Her father just sat there, staring at the divorce papers I had thrown onto the table like they were a death certificate. That I should have felt something. Regret. Sadness. Some kind of grief for the life I had just destroyed. But I didn't. That I felt free. That I had spent so much time playing the fool, so many months pretending I didn't see the signs, convincing myself that the woman I loved couldn't possibly be capable of something like this. But she was. And now, everyone knew it. There was no more pretending. No more lies. That I set my glass down and turned to the guests, my voice calm, steady. "I appreciate you all coming tonight. Sorry for the unexpected entertainment, but at least now, there's no confusion about why this marriage is over." I looked around at Emma's closest friends, the ones who had been to our house countless times, the ones who had smiled at me like everything was normal. And for those of you who already knew? My eyes lingered on them for a second, watching them shift uncomfortably. I hope it was worth it. Then I walked away. That I didn't want to deal with their sympathy. I didn't want their apologies. None of it mattered anymore. The party was over, both literally and figuratively. I left them sitting there in the wreckage of what had once been my life and stepped outside into the cool night air, letting the weight of it all settle in. And that's when my phone started buzzing. It was Emma. I let it ring. Then again. And again. She was panicking. Desperate. I already knew what she was going to say. The same tired excuses, the same manipulations. She would cry. Beg. Swear that she had been lost, that she had made a mistake, that she still loved me. But it wasn't love. It had never been love. If she had truly loved me, she wouldn't have done any of this. She wouldn't have taken everything we built and thrown it away for someone who didn't even bother to show up when things got bad. That I blocked her number. That night, I slept better than I had in years. No tossing and turning. No gut-wrenching anxiety. Just peace. The next morning, I woke up to a flurry of messages. Some from friends, some from mutual acquaintances, some from people I barely even knew. News spread fast, apparently. Some were supportive. Others were just nosy, wanting more details, wanting to hear it straight from me. I ignored most of them. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. The truth was out. That was enough, but the real satisfaction came when I checked my email. That I had been waiting for this confirmation from her company. She was officially fired. That I imagined the scene in my head, her walking into the office, expecting to smooth things over, only to be met with HR, with printed copies of her expense reports, with undeniable proof that she had been using company money for her affair. I wondered if she tried to lie her way out of it. If she begged. If she made excuses. But in the end, none of it mattered. She was gone. By midday, another message came in, this time from a mutual friend. She's staying with her sister. Ryan's gone. Blocked her. Moved on. She's got nothing. I sat there for a moment, staring at those words. It was done. Everything she had built outside of our marriage, every secret life she had been leading, had crumbled in an instant. She had lost her husband, her home, her job, and the man she thought she could build a future with. She had gambled everything, and she had lost. And for the first time since this entire nightmare began, I felt truly, completely free. I don't regret what I did. Not a single moment of it. People will say I was cruel, that I should have handled it differently, that I should have just walked away quietly. But why? Why should I have let her rewrite the story? Why should I have let her walk away with half of what I built, play the victim, twist the truth? No. She needed to face the consequences. She needed to feel what it was like to have everything ripped away without warning, just like she did to me. And now, she knows exactly what that feels like. Let this be a lesson to anyone who thinks they can build a life on lies. Eventually, the truth always comes out, and when it does, you better be ready for it. I thought that after everything was exposed, after I walked away and left her with nothing, I would feel completely free. And in a way, I did. But what I hadn't expected was how much of my life was still tangled up in the mess Emma had created. You don't spend years building a marriage, a home, a life with someone and then just erase it overnight. Even when you want to. Even when you know that person never truly deserved your love in the first place, the fallout was bigger than I had anticipated. Emma wasn't just humiliated, she was completely wrecked. She was living with her sister now, and from what I heard, the atmosphere over there was tense. Her sister never liked me much, but apparently, she had even less patience for Emma's betrayal. And Ryan? He had completely disappeared. Blocked her number, ignored her attempts to contact him, moved on like she never existed. The moment he realized she wouldn't be bringing any financial security into his life, he vanished. Just like that I knew she was struggling. That should have made me feel better, but strangely, it didn't. It didn't bring me joy to know she was miserable. It didn't make me feel victorious to know that she was losing sleep, pacing in some guest room in her sister's house, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. She knew exactly where it went wrong. She just never thought she'd get caught. But my life wasn't exactly easy either. Divorce, even when you're the one who wants it, is exhausting. The paperwork, the legal meetings, the endless emails, it all took its toll. I had already stripped her of any financial claim to me, but she still fought. Not for money, but for reputation. She wanted to negotiate, wanted to soften the blow, wanted me to stop talking about what happened. But she had no leverage. And I wasn't about to let her rewrite history. She called me from a different number one night, catching me off guard. For a second, I almost hung up. But a part of me wanted to hear what she had to say. I need to talk to you, she said, her voice quiet, hollow. I didn't respond. I know I messed up, she continued. I know I hurt you. And I know you hate me, but she let out a shaky breath. I never meant for things to end like this. I laughed. Actually laughed. How exactly did you think things were going to end, Emma? She was silent. You lied. You cheated. You built an entire relationship behind my back and used my money to do it. And you never even thought twice about it. So tell me, how did you think this was going to go? More silence. Then, barely above a whisper, I didn't think I'd lose you. That was the part that got me. Not because I believed it, but because she really, truly thought she still had some kind of claim to me. Like I was something she lost, rather than something she threw away. She wanted me to say that I missed her. That some part of me still loved her. That maybe, just maybe, if things had been different, we could have worked it out. But there was nothing left to salvage. I don't hate you, I finally said. You're not worth the energy. And then I hung up. I sat there for a while, staring at my phone, waiting to see if she would call again. She didn't. That was the last time I ever heard her voice. The divorce was finalized 2 weeks later. No last-minute pleas, no dramatic courtroom scenes. Just a few signatures, a few official words, and it was done. Emma was out of my life. Permanently. I expected to feel relief. And I did. But more than anything, I felt a strange kind of emptiness. Not because I missed her, because I didn't. But because for the first time in a long time, I was completely, utterly alone. And I had no idea what came next. The moment the divorce was finalized, I felt like I should have been celebrating. People told me to go out, drink, party, enjoy my newfound freedom. And for a second, I thought about it. But when I woke up the next morning, staring at the papers on my desk, I didn't feel victorious. I didn't feel like I had won anything. I just felt done. Empty in a way that was hard to describe. Not because I missed Emma, because I didn't. But because I had spent so much time, so much effort, so much mental energy on making sure she got exactly what she deserved that I had forgotten what came after, life after her. For years, my identity had been wrapped up in our marriage. Every decision I made had included her. Every plan I had for the future involved her. Even in the months leading up to the divorce, my every action was focused on exposing her, taking back my life, making sure she didn't walk away unscathed. But now? Now there was nothing left to fight. Nothing left to prove. It was just me, in an empty house, with an entire life I needed to figure out how to live again. The first thing I did was get rid of everything that reminded me of her. I wasn't one of those people who wanted to keep mementos, to hold on to the past for nostalgia's sake. No. I wanted every trace of her gone. Every picture, every little decorative piece she had insisted on buying, every note or card she had written me over the years. I packed it all up, put it in a box, and left it outside. I didn't even care if she came to get it or if the trash took it first. I just wanted it gone. Then, I changed everything. The house we had lived in together felt poisoned, like it still carried her presence, her betrayal lingering in every room. So I repainted the walls, rearranged the furniture, bought new things to replace the ones she had chosen. It was small, but it helped. It made it feel less like our house and more like my house. And that's what I needed. A fresh start. But no matter how much I changed, there were still reminders of what happened. People still talked. Friends still brought up Emma, asking how I was doing, wanting to know the full story, wanting to hear all the details even though they had already seen everything unfold at the party. It annoyed me. I didn't want to be that guy, the man whose entire personality was shaped by his wife's affair. I didn't want to carry that with me forever. I had already given her too much of my time. She didn't deserve a second more. So I started distancing myself. I stopped answering calls from mutual friends. I declined invites to events where I knew people would whisper about me behind my back. I wasn't ashamed of what happened, far from it. But I was tired of being defined by it. I wanted a clean break, a real chance to move forward without always being reminded of the wreckage she left behind. That's when I realized I needed to leave, not just emotionally. Physically, the house, the town, the routines, they were all tied to her in ways I couldn't escape. Everywhere I went, there was a memory. A restaurant where we used to eat. A store where she had picked out furniture. A park where we had once spent lazy afternoons pretending we were happy. I couldn't keep living in the ruins of our marriage. So I made the decision. I put the house on the market. It wasn't easy. I had spent years working to afford it, turning it into a home, building something that I thought would last forever. But it was never really mine, was it? It had always been ours. And now, it was just a shell, filled with ghosts of the past. Selling it was the only way to truly move forward. While waiting for buyers, I started focusing on myself for the first time in years. I hit the gym more often, not because I wanted revenge or to impress someone new, but because it gave me a sense of control over my life again. I started eating better, sleeping better. I forced myself to pick up old hobbies, things I had neglected during my marriage: reading, traveling, even just sitting in silence without constantly feeling the need to do something. And then, the house sold faster than I expected, actually. A couple with 2 kids, excited to start their life in what they saw as a perfect family home. I almost laughed at the irony of it. If only they knew the history of what had happened in those walls. But that wasn't my problem anymore. I packed up what little I wanted to keep, got in my car, and left without looking back. A new city. A new job. A new life. No Emma. No baggage. No past dragging me down. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was truly free, and I wasn't going to waste it. Leaving wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. I always imagined that when you start over, there's this huge emotional weight, this final moment where you look back and question if you're doing the right thing. But there was none of that. The day I handed over the keys to the house, I felt nothing. No nostalgia, no second guessing, no lingering attachments. It wasn't my home anymore. It never really was. It was a place where I had been lied to, where I had been used, where I had lived under an illusion. Walking away wasn't difficult. It was liberating. I moved to a new city, one where no one knew me, where I wasn't the guy whose wife cheated on him. I found a condo in a high-rise, something sleek and modern, completely different from the house I had shared with Emma. I wanted something that was mine, something that wasn't filled with old memories. For the first time in years, I made choices based purely on what I wanted, without worrying about someone else's preferences, and for the first time in a long time, I felt in control. The first few weeks were strange. It took time to adjust to the silence, to the absence of constant stress, to the reality that I didn't have to check my phone for excuses, lies, or disappointments. I had spent so much time fighting, planning, exposing, and escaping that I had forgotten what normal life even felt like. Waking up without the weight of betrayal sitting on my chest was a new experience, one I had to remind myself to appreciate. But I wasn't sad. I didn't miss her. If anything, I felt like I had woken up from a long nightmare, one where I had spent years convincing myself that I was happy when I wasn't. The truth was, even before I knew about the affair, Emma had drained me. I had spent so much time trying to be the husband she wanted, trying to accommodate her, trying to ignore the little things that told me she wasn't who I thought she was. She had taken, and I had given without realizing how much of myself I was losing in the process. Now, I wasn't losing anything. I was only gaining. One night, a few weeks after the move, I got a message from an unknown number. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but can we talk? I didn't need to ask who it was. Emma. I stared at the message for a long time, wondering if I should ignore it. Block the number. Pretend like she no longer existed. But then, out of pure curiosity, I replied. About what? The dots appeared almost instantly, like she had been waiting. I just need to explain. I need you to understand. Understand what? That she had thrown away everything we built for some meaningless affair? That she had spent months lying to my face, using me, humiliating me? There was nothing she could say that would change what happened. Nothing that would make me feel sympathy for her, but something in me wanted to hear it. Fine. Call me. The phone rang almost immediately. The moment I heard her voice, I could tell she had been crying. I didn't think you'd answer, she said quietly. I almost didn't. Silence. Then, a shaky breath. I don't know where to start. You could start with the truth, I said, my voice flat. Something you weren't very good at before. She exhaled sharply, like my words had hit her harder than she expected. I deserve that. I said nothing. I messed up, she admitted. I know that. I know I ruined everything. But I swear, it wasn't supposed to happen like this. I thought I had time. I thought, she cut herself off, sniffled. I don't even know what I thought anymore. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the city lights outside my window. You thought you could get away with it, I said simply. More silence. Then, a broken, yeah. For a moment, neither of us spoke. There was nothing left to say. Then she asked the question I had been waiting for. Do you hate me? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Did I hate her? Did I want revenge? Did I want her to suffer more than she already had? No, I finally said. I don't hate you. You're just nothing to me now. She let out a shaky breath, and I could tell that hurt her more than if I had screamed at her. I miss you, she whispered. I miss us. There was no us. There hadn't been for a long time. You don't miss me, I told her. You miss the life you had. You miss the security. You miss knowing someone was there for you no matter what. But you don't miss me. More silence. Then, so quietly I almost didn't hear it, maybe you're right. I had already won. She had lost everything, her job, her reputation, the man she thought would be her future. And now, she had lost me, too. She was reaching out because she had no one left. But I wasn't her safety net anymore. You should move on, Emma, I said finally. Because I already have. And with that, I ended the call. That I blocked the number. Deleted the message, and then, without a second thought, I moved on with my life, because for the first time in years, it was mine again.